Hi, welcome to a new video in which I'm going to make English muffins. Now this is an example of some from the last batch, but we've been eating these so much. Both my daughters and my wife love the things. If you've seen some of my videos, you'll know that I do a lot of cooking and I cook a lot of things the old-fashioned way. So this is really an old-fashioned way to make a very traditional English muffin. This is a really great recipe. It's pretty simple. Once you make it a few times, you'll have the hang of it. I'm going to start with a little warm water, just 3 tablespoons of warm water, right here from the kettle. You don't want it too hot. You know, you're just rehydrating your yeast here. So there's a little water. I'm just going to, yeah, that's a good temperature for yeast. And so I'm just going to add the yeast here, kind of stir it up. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll stir it a little bit more before I add it. But I'm also going to use a couple of teaspoons of salt. I always use kosher salt with yeast because I hear that the yeast can be inhibited by the iodine that's in regular table salt. I'm going to add a tablespoon of kosher salt. I like maybe a little extra. Maybe that's another teaspoon. So you can vary all of these ingredients a little bit to your taste. We like a little extra salt in our family, and if I don't add salt, then I end up having to sprinkle salt on the English muffins when we toast them. This is a teaspoon of sugar. That really helps the yeast do its job. And I'm also going to add a cup of water. Now that can be just room temperature or cold water right out of the tap, because I'm also going to add half a cup of scalded milk, which will help to bring the temperature of the liquid up to a good temperature for the yeast. So I'm going to just go ahead and prepare that half cup of scalded milk. Now, scalded milk is milk that has been heated, but not to the boiling point, just until bubbles start to form around the edge. And I just actually use this measuring cup as a little pan and put it right on the stove, just like that. Well, now I can hear my milk starting to make noise over here now. Now you see what I mean by it's got bubbles forming around the edge there. That's scalded. So in it goes, and I'm going to start mixing that now. And now I'm going to add 2 cups of flour, a little bit at a time. So I'll use a half cup measure and do half a cup, do 4 of them. Now I don't have to sift this. It's not that careful a recipe. It's kind of a peasant recipe. It's just not that picky. Now what's different about English muffins from a lot of other things that you bake is I'm going to put half the flour in now and let it rise that way. So it will be a sponge, not a full dough. So it'll be very wet, almost more of a batter. And I'll let it rise that way for an hour and a half or so. And then I'll mix in 2 more cups of flour and a little butter. So here's the 4th of the half cups. So that right there is going to make my sponge, and I'll let that rise for 2 hours, hour and a half, depending on the temperature. And you can see it's pretty wet wetter than you'd want for a bread dough. And then I'm going to add my yeast in there now. I'm just going to mix that in, and I'll scrape it down with a rubber spatula as well. Nice. I love the smell. I love the smell of yeast doing its job. Okay. And I'll just let that mix for a minute or so, or maybe 2 minutes, and then I'll set it aside, and I'll see you back in about an hour and a half. Well, our next step is to soften up, or really kind of melt 3 tablespoons of butter. And so I do the same thing as scalding the milk. I just use a little measuring cup. I'm going to estimate 3 tablespoons. Oh, right around there. Again, this kind of recipe, you can kind of wing it a little bit, so I'm just going to heat this up. And I just put that right on there to heat. And while that's going on, I'm going to take out our dough. Really, it's a sponge at this point, not a dough. Oh, there it is. There it is. See it in there? It's really, you know, it'll kind of eventually collapse and fall back in here. Well, anyway, I'm going to add the butter once I soften it. Mix it up again. There we go. And now I'm going to add, this is another half cup. I'm going to add 2 more cups here. The last quarter cup though, I'm going to knead into the dough rather than use the mixer. So there's 1. 2. 3. 'Kay, I'm going to say that's pretty good. and now we'll move on to kneading the dough. Now that last quarter cup, I'm going to put it right on the counter. Now before we really get going here, I need to prepare a sheet that I'm going to put all of these once I cut all these English muffins out, I'm going to put them on this tray just to do a second rise. And now, if you've eaten English muffins, and I'm assuming if you're watching this video that you've had English muffins, you take some cornmeal. You'll find the cornmeal on the bottom of the English muffins, you know. So you sprinkle that cornmeal all on the cookie sheet. Keep your, the raw dough from the muffins from sticking. This enables you to pick them up and carefully slip them onto a skillet for cooking. These don't actually bake, they cook on a skillet right on the stove top. They're kind of this is an old recipe. English muffins are kind of a traditional thing that would have been cooked probably as early as the 16th or 17th century, before a lot of people even had ovens, and they would have done most of their cooking either in a skillet or in a Dutch oven, which is basically a big metal, a pot that you heat up in a fire and you can bake in it, if you ever wondered why they were called Dutch ovens. So there's a little layer of cornmeal. And now again, here's my dough, which still needs another quarter cup of flour, but I put the quarter cup here. And now I'm going to roll it out. I'm going to knead it and get it going. So I'm just going to spread this out a little bit. Turn my dough out. Man, is it sticky? Now you know why they call it gluten. Roll up your sleeves and let's get ready. So we're going to knead this dough a little bit and just keep kneading it until we've incorporated pretty much all of that flour. Don't worry if it sticks on your hands a little bit. It will eventually all incorporate. Okay, now I'm going to take this dough, kind of make it into a circle and keep flipping it to coat both sides in flour. Now with one side, the back side coated, I'm going to roll it out a little bit. This is just to make it a uniform thickness. You want to go about half an inch or so. This would be about a little over half an inch thick. And if you don't like the surface, you can flip it over, start working on the other side to get a nice uniform thickness. That looks pretty good, huh? Okay. Now I have here an old biscuit cutter. It's an old biscuit cutter, probably from the World War II era, I don't know. I'm going to cut that out. Cut this one out. I'm just going to go around and I don't think I'm going to get one there. So I'm going to peel all this stuff up. This I'll re-knead and cut a few more. Usually you get about 2 dozen or even 16 out of this. Now these will rise, so you don't want to put them too close together. They'll spread, and you really don't want them to touch each other. And now we'll roll out the rest of this. There we go. So there we got, what do we got there? 8, 9, 15. Okay, well, welcome back. I've got my skillet pretty hot. You want to do this pretty hot, not hot enough to burn the butter, but pretty hot. I'm going to take about a tablespoon of butter here and just melt it on here. Well, I don't want to, again, I don't want to burn the butter. I don't want it turning brown, but I do want it pretty hot. And I have my, there they are, all risen. You see they've gotten a little larger, they've spread out. Okay, now I'm going to take each one and just put it on here, and I turn the heat up for this part so I can get them pretty. All right, now 1, 2, 3, 4 of them here. I have 2 burners under this, so I'm going to put 4 over each burner. All right, let's have a peek. There you go, huh? Not bad, huh? English muffins. Okay, I think we're done. Those look good. Nice. Real nice. Yeah, maybe just a little bit more on some of those. one in the toaster over here too right now, so I'm going to have the earlier one that I showed you from the previous batch. I'm toasting that right now so you can see what the finished product looks like. Nice. Nice. So nice. So there's English muffins. This batch made 15. And that's what they look like, all toasted and ready to go. I mean, these are so delicious. You can do just about anything you'd think with them, you know, just like you can with any other English muffin. You can make sandwiches on them. You can just have a bite. It's so good. Thank you for watching.